Hello everybody. Again, welcome to our AI webinar. My name is Andrej, and I will be your host today. I will shortly introduce you our speakers today, housekeeping rules and agenda of the webinar. So let me start with a brief introduction of the speakers. We have here Dmitry Shikhmatyar, AI Product Manager of Blind Spot Solutions, a company delivering consulting and software development services in the area of machine learning optimization and artificial intelligence. Our co-speaker today will be Tomáš Wolf, an associate partner of Arastra Business Consulting and expert on banking. The presentation of our speakers will take approximately 55 minutes, followed by 15 to 20 minutes Q&A session, where we will go through your questions received during the webinar. Just to note, you can share your questions anytime during the whole webinar using Q&A button, which you can see on your screen. Also, I would like to ask you to keep your microphones off for the whole webinar. Also, let me briefly introduce you the agenda for today. Our speakers will first discuss the role of AI in digital transformation for banks of the future. Then we will go through some of the usual bottlenecks we see in banks aspiring for AI adoption, followed by a quick guide on how to correctly approach the AI adoption. At the end of the presentation part, Dmitry will also walk you through a real example of delivery and results of initiative optimizing early warning signals using AI. So I think we can start. Tomáš, I would hand over the word to you as our first speaker.
Perfect. So hello everybody. Thank you for taking the time. And today we will be speaking about the practical utilization of AI. I am mostly a business person who has experience with modeling and, let's say, advanced algorithms and how they can be utilized in today's banking. And Dmitry has a practical, actually, he's the guy who can actually do it, right? So he has the practical experience of actually creating the models, making sure they work, and implementing them. There will be several sections today, and right now what we will be talking about is how to practically start. I think this is the whole aim of this, and be practical, not to be building these castles that are mostly totally false. So today you will not hear we're talking bank of the future, right? And most of the time people want to hear this, you need to be the Facebook of the future and the Google of the future. Well, unfortunately, Facebook and Google sell ads, right? They don't sell anything else. They have a good, they have a good other businesses, but banks don't really sell ads, right? They sell money. So we're not be talking about that. We'll be practical. And what we're saying is that within the next couple of years, branches are going nowhere. You have a new channel. Yes, you have a new channel, but it's not about that, in 10 years that we're prophesizing that it's going to change the way, people live. No, it's not. Yeah. However, it's here. AI, advanced algorithms are here. And if you're not going to start today, you're going to miss, the experience, as bike riding. If you didn't bike ride at the beginning of, when you were a little kid, your friends did 2 years earlier, then you could find out 2 years later that they're better at bike riding than you are. And that's the same thing here, right? Are you going to lay dead as a company, if you're not going to start today? Probably not. But in a couple of years it can catch up with you. And so what we're saying is that it's not whether to do it, we have data and et cetera, but how practically start, right? And to be very honest, it seems to me that it's more, I see a lot of more confusion rather in the industry on how to define AI, what it is, and how it works. And so maybe on the next slide, actually, Dmitry is going to talk about that. and tell you how to actually wrap your heads around it and be more specific.
Sure. Thank you, Tomasz, for this. Um, I would like here. I would like to tell you actually how to look at the artificial intelligence, because everybody is talking about, but how to reason about it and how actually to make the most out of it. Uh, sometimes people start with the technology if machine learning is AI or neural networks as AI, but we advise our clients to look from another point of view. Look for what it helps you to achieve, rather than start with business, rather than start with technology. And what we are saying that regardless technology, artificial intelligence is something that helps people to automate, accelerate, and scale their work. So here is important that the person is still in the loop. So as I said, it's something that helps us, that helps people to scale, automate, and accelerate. Which actually brings to the important distinguishment of general artificial intelligence or narrow artificial intelligence, or sometimes called strong and weak. So very often this um, you know this science fiction is about some AI that is going to supersede human, that can figure out everything by itself. This is what is referred as a general artificial intelligence or strong, but as we will see later, we are quite far from this. However, what is working today in not only in the financial sector, but in other verticals is narrow artificial intelligence, which is good in certain tasks, but it is good only in one certain task. So let us actually look also at the timeline, so we can see better about this distinguishment and what is available today. Actually, the research of artificial intelligence is over 50 years old, and it started in MIT with Marvin Minsky, who went in 1983, and he went to the funding committee and says, "Look, give me funding and 10 years of time, maximum 15, and we'll arrive to the point where robots will be going around." And today is 2020, and we are still far away from it. So obviously he didn't succeed, and actually that led people to important milestone that said, okay, what is actually artificial intelligence and what do we want to achieve? And in 1983, people said, okay, look, playing chess is quite a complicated thing. You have to think around, and it's not a deterministic process. So if you will have a system that is able to play chess, then we will find out the strong artificial intelligence that is able to figure out everything else by itself. So this was where the effort of researchers went. And in the famous milestone of 1997, where Deep Blue, the supercomputer, beats Garry Kasparov. So it was undoubtedly a big success and a very complex thing. And apparently people thought that, look, if we have a system that plays chess better than the world champion, then we are probably there. But this is the point where it's important to know that even though this system is able to play chess, it is not able to do anything else, right? So it's complex, but it's far from being intelligent in this point of view. So today, where we are, or last couple of days, the breakthrough is actually these systems which we have available. They're able, in my opinion, to solve more complex tasks as playing chess. So self-driving cars. It's about perception of the world around and making some decisions if you brake, accelerate, and actually the car itself is quite a complex system. So manipulating with that is quite complicated. And at the same time, we have things like Alexa who are able to communicate. So it means that they are able to take any input, understand it, find the answer, and give you back. But here, what is important, it still is not a strong AI. the Alexa is not able to drive a car, and self-driving car is not able to hold a conversation with you. And knowing how to drive a car, the system is not able to learn how to underwrite loans or evaluate risks. So as you can see, this strong AI, we are quite far from it, and people still don't know how to define it and how to aim to it. But where we are very good at is with narrow AI. It means that we can train a system, artificial intelligence system, to perform a task, a very complicated one, be it playing chess, drive a car, or hold a conversation. And in this very narrow field, it can deliver impressive results. So in order to bring it back actually to the daily business, what are the three factors of AI project? Here was what we have actually identified and summarized during our work. So first and foremost is start with the data. It's just the nature of the beast. And here it is important to have right data, and it's not important to have a lot of data, because as it says, better data beats smarter algorithm. And here it's also important to know that it's not necessary to have a huge amount of data. For some applications, they are quite data hungry, but there are also a lot of applications where the data which is naturally available for the last couple of years or even less is sufficient enough to get started. Second, and also equally important, I would say, is to have a clear scope of the problem. Because actually, this, as I was illustrating before, because the narrow is the scope, the easier is the solution, and the higher the chances for success. So, this approach that AI would solve everything is the approach for strong general efficient AI, and as we have seen, we are very far from it. And as we think, we are very good at AI is very good in solving specific tasks. Therefore, having a clear scope of the problem is very important. And last but not least, having correct expectations is also very important, because what we see usually is sometimes people have very high expectations, imagining this strong AI that can solve everything with just push the button and makes money. As I said, we are far from here, and also there are some optimists that think that AI is a premature technology. But as always, truth is somewhere in the middle. Therefore, having correct expectations is very important to deliver successful project and manage the expectations accordingly. With this, I will actually like to pass back to Tomáš to introduce us how AI will affect the banking industry.
Sure. Thank you. So now I think it was well said that we are not really focusing on the strong AI, which means this general AI that can walk, talk, and chew gum at the same time, but on the specific AI that is actually trained to do one and only specific task or set of tasks that it becomes better than a human being, right? And how can we do this how do we utilize this in banking, right? So if you look at Gartner's and all the other, let's say, reputable magazines and other publishing houses and research houses, most of the time what you see in a ranking, you see that most of people that are working in banking and AI, they want to utilize it for mostly for one reason, and that is increase efficiency of the bank. What does it mean? Increasing efficiency means either decreasing costs or mostly like making most inputs with lowering inputs and increasing outputs, right? And so in that regard, in most polls, we get, oh, I expect to decrease the number of FTEs, because of some back office automated processing of documentation, right? Or, I expect the, lower physical security because, I'm going to be like processing videos and require only less people for that, et cetera, right? So from this perspective, I mean, we see that with less inputs, with less people, we'll be able to do more outputs. That means, having physical security or decrease inbound, etc. But one thing that's mostly not there is what I call increase the pie, right? Making more business, and this is an interesting area where AI can help banks to go into new segments. So, for example, who is here from risk or who has to deal with risk understands the approval rates, and with better approval rates, we can get to better risk-based pricing. With risk-based pricing, we can actually tap into lower or higher segments of people. So from this perspective, it's one possibility. Second possibility, new products, right? So for example, I don't know if anybody, there is a Swedish company called Klarna. It's a company that is thought to be one of the successes of when they started with a checkout service, and now they're a bank. And what actually happened, they tap into an e-retail, where they actually provide service to the retailers, small and big, to increase their conversion rates. And they actually do business from that. That's an acquisition channel, and they do business by, throughout the whole, interaction with the web or app. They're able to say whether the client is or is not eligible for any kind of loan or line of credit, and then show or not show, the ability to apply, right? And this is and it's mostly almost in real time. And this is how how we can utilize some of the decision making there. And if I should be more specific, let's go to the next slide, and we can talk about like where can be this utilized in banking, right? So we have sales, ops, risk, and all the other places. But let me talk about maybe 2 or 3 things that I've already seen working, and it actually happened. And we've seen also the results. So first of all, chatbots, voice bots. So we've seen actually an implementation on the service lines of chatbots and voice bots, and it had a tremendous 60% plus impact on lowering the workload of the inbound lines. Imagine that right now you could actually, with just implementing this, it's not an effortless endeavor, right? But you can imagine that within a couple of weeks, you do this, and all of a sudden you get relief of 60% of the inbounds, because most of that workload can be taken over by the bots, right? The trained bots. So this is amazing feat. You can't really do that, in with any other technology. Now, imagine also that we're processing. Imagine you have a lot of branches, right? So we're processing video feeds, so that there's no need for physical security to be there, and you can most definitely have hubs where you have the physical security. There's less people, but the security is the same thing, and the video. The beauty is that the video is being processed, and let's say certain dangerous images are then being picked up and shown on the screen, that somebody's putting the cell phone over the counter, things of that nature. So this can be also done there. in terms of, for example, sales, much better targeting. So imagine that today you need you need several hundreds of people on cross-sell every day in the call center. Right now, what we can do is with analytics, we can pick out pretty well 80 to 90% of those who would be converted and just put them in one bag, and not to waste effort on the others that we know that they have little to no probability of actually buying any cross-selling products, be it lending product or saving investments, whatnot. So from this perspective, this is these are actually the individual working case studies or use cases that already work. And managing customer lifetime value, cash distribution. This is actually one of the optimization engines. KYC and AML, very good one. Processing of images is extremely good for AI, and so on and so forth. So from this perspective, where to utilize AI is mostly where your KPIs are. Yeah, from business perspective. If you want to make more money, okay, so let's focus on cross-selling less people with high probabilities, or acquisition, enrich your internal data with external, and chase the right clients, not to waste your resources on something that it's not efficient. Then increase the pie, create new products, right? Online checkouts, and et cetera, that can actually help clients with with acquisition, or help you with acquisitions of completely new segments, right? This is where it starts, but it starts with you. AI cannot help you decide, where should I start? That's your business. But once you decide whether you want to just decrease costs or you want to increase sales, or both, there are very good applications within the scale that that can be held by the different engines. So if we move on, I just want to wrap it up. So everybody hears, or most of us hear from right, left, that the keywords are seamless, real time, hyper personalization, and with that comes decision making, right? So if you want to have a customer segment of one person, that means no cluster of 10,000 or 50,000 or 150,000 clients clustered into one segment, then and you want to have actually 1,500,000 and 3 million segments, because you want every individual to have its own segment basically, then decision making needs to happen automatically. And you can get paralyzed with decision making, data processing, etc., if you want to do that, but you want to apply let's say the old tools. I can have rule-based engine run on every single customer, but it's going to be inefficient. There will be a lot of false positives. The rules are not efficient. So first of all, if that happens, you need to have something more efficient that actually is able to do that with higher accuracy than a human being, right? Second, it makes sense, right? The ROI usually comes back within weeks of implementation. So it's not like, some of the Lean Six Sigma is a great example. I have a black belt, I love it. But once you sometimes you go to a company, you try to do Lean Six Sigma, and you say, in 2 years you get it back, right? So you save 1 FT. It's not that great. But with this, it's usually the money comes back pretty quickly. And the thing is that it's not that hard to do it, right? As long as you have the data, etc., it's not that hard. You know, you have specific tasks, you can do very specific thing in very short amount of time. And the question is, you know, what it takes to actually start. And actually, Dmitry is going to talk about it on the next slide.
Yeah, many thanks, Tomasz, for this deep dive. Indeed, probably a lot of people are asking themselves, you know, are they ready and how to start? And here I would, I think it's also important to know that the barriers, entry barriers that existed a few years ago, they don't exist anymore. And I'm going to walk you through this. And indeed, it's simple to start. So looking on the first prerequisite, companies do have a tremendous amount of data, because we all know that the cost of storage is decreasing very fast. So, you know, remember a few years ago, it was quite expensive to buy SD card of 128 gigabytes. And now every average laptop has already, you know, half of 1 terabyte of storage. And the same is for companies. And the amount of activity, digital activity is growing, the cost of storage is decreasing, and data is not an issue anymore. So this one is checked. Very interesting is sufficient computational power. It's also available on one click. And let me give you an example. So we were working with one bank, and they went to some use case for image processing. Which is computationally quite heavy, and normally they would need to buy, you know, GPUs and the hardware to deliver this. However, with the help of cloud providers, on one click you can spin up the instance somewhere in the cloud and configure whatever you need, whatever computational power you need, just for time of calculation, and then put it down and pay only for this time of the calculation. So computational power is not a barrier anymore, and we are not limited with hardware, because we can have it for rent and on a very reasonable price, and and scalability is also important, right? So you can have it on demand and just only when you need it. So it's a big enabler. Another point is actually, indeed, the data contain complex pattern which people cannot see. Therefore, exploiting this data gives tangible opportunities. You know, to give example from banking, that we see that with increased activity on digital, the digital footprint is increasing for everybody, including SMEs. And when the traditional underwriting is based on like backward-looking indicators such as you know, financial statements from last few years, in some newly established SMEs not available. However, we do have a lot of data: how many followers on the Facebook they have, how it is growing over time, what are the comments, what are the ratings. So this is some kind of proxy that you can use to estimate the business and actually enhance your underwriting based on it. And that's what Tomasz saying, is entering new segments. So these SMEs that don't have sufficient credit history, but they have a big digital footprint because their business is on digital channel, they start to be interesting, they start to be underwritable, and source of new business. Of course, the technology is evolving very fast, and if you look at the progress, how new papers are published, is also very astonishing. So actually, the algorithm or technology to deliver solution deliver use case is not limitation anymore, because this is very fast evolving, and technology such as natural language processing, so we can work with unstructured data, images, suddenly we can work with unstructured data. So it doesn't mean that you have to have all table in the tabular form. Even things, as I said, would not be processable a few years ago as a free text. Suddenly with the help of today's algorithm technology, is here to help us and deliver. And last but not least, we do have technology to put these insights in practice and get actionables out of the analysis, right? So if you want, so you have models, you have data to personalize your customer communication, and the technology would also enable to send customized emails, make some real-time decisions. So once the person logs in the internet banking, you can fetch the API for and see what would be the next best offer and how to personalize his experience in this internet banking, and whether to show offer for credit card, investment, or mortgage, and in which place and in which basically form of communication. So we had a client that if customer is micro segmented in the sports, so he would have some sportsmen playing tennis, and if somebody has another segment, then the visual communication would be adjusted accordingly. So this is also not a barrier anymore. And as Thomas said, it's simple to start, and we have all enablers here for us. This being said, actually, I would ask now Tomasz to comment on some common bottlenecks of AI adoption.
All right, thank you. So, just to recap what we're talking about right now, yeah, we have talked about how to think about AI, strong and generalistic versus specific. We've been talking about whether we actually are ready, with the data and computing power, etc. And we were talking about where to use it, right? And in general, we say yes, we are ready. We have data, we have the computing power, we have the use cases, right? And what I want to talk about is what are the obstacles? As I said at the beginning, I'm a business guy, right? And I'm looking at the organization, and I see that the organization keep on struggling where to put, the AI department, how to really handle it. And I want to talk about what I see as the biggest, let's say, implementation struggles, right? And I want to talk about the first one, and first one is management buy-in. It's not on the slide, but I see it as one of the big issues, because we have all of a sudden we have this new thing coming into the organization, and the discussion is, okay, who's going to take care of it, right? Who's going to be responsible for it, and where do I put it? Is it going to go into my BI department, or is it going to be mostly in IT, because it's like, they're going to handle some of the software. So, where do I really put it? Where, how do I structure it? And so this is the biggest problem that I see, is that there is no buy-in and no trust in this, and where to put it and how to organize it. And as a second thing is that it actually beats the operating model. And so when we're talking about, so most of the time I see that, somebody says, okay, let's have an AI. They create an AI department, and they put two guys, somewhere in the basement, and say, hey guys, you're now an AI department, and do something, right? And that's it. And of course it's going to fail, because if you don't have a specific purpose in mind, which gets me to a third thing, which is a strategy, specific reason why you have an AI except for PR reasons, then it's going to fail, right? And in that regard, you have to have a specific idea. Usually what works is, okay, I want to increase sales, and I want to use AI for that. Okay, I don't understand AI, like what kind of models I can use and what are the ramifications for me. I don't know why, but I have people who know. So I put them where they need to be, and that's in that department where the sales are happening. and they need to figure it out how to use it. And that's the beginning, right? So later on, how to scale it, it's a different thing. But how to start, you know, don't create a completely new department and try to figure it out how to put it into KPIs of the other people and so on and so forth. Just make it happen in a small way. However, once we get into scaling, we get an outdated operational model. And this is basically the traditional silo versus, let's say, the dynamic, empowered, you know, employee empowered company, where the most power is in the front, and it's not, let's say, it's not a command driven hierarchical structure, but it's more like a mesh. And so here, because if you want to do something, you need to test it, you need to, you need to put out a product pretty quickly, you need to test it on some, on some markets or on some regions. And then if it doesn't work the way you should, you should stop it, redo it and launch it again. So if it's the normal, if it's the normal time to market, creating a product takes a half a year just to, get it through all the departments. This is a struggle too, because, if you want to create a product, you just want to test it. You don't want to spend half a year of many people. You just want to do it in 1 week, test it. It doesn't work. Okay, let's take it down. Or wow, it worked great. So let's actually put it into the larger process of product approval. Risk actually wets it, and so on and so forth. So from this perspective, this is the second or third problem that we have: management buy-in, no strategy, and that there is like updated operating model. What I also see, there are two more, which is acquisition of talent. Not only that, 2 or 3 guys don't make a department. Sometimes they do, but if you need to interconnect it, they need to be interconnected. So the talent is going somewhere else. Most of the time, some startups, right? At least at this moment, next year might be something different. But getting into the traditional banks, they need to see some kind of future, and that comes with the organization, strategy, and the operating model that they can make the change. And the last but not least that I want to talk about is data and technology. What I see in banks is that the startups and the fintechs of the world don't have to deal with regulation. They don't have to deal with legacy systems. So I see core systems that are 10, 15 years old that don't even produce data on the granularity level we require, or the fact that it is batch processing every night. So how do you want to make online work instantaneously? And these are the questions that we have to struggle with, and we already struggled in here, for example, in Europe, by taking some of the functionalities out of the core technologies, putting them into big data systems, and processing it outside in real time or near real time. And that enabled us to actually start using technologies and, let's say, augment the human beings with the decision making that they can do on top of AI. So from my perspective, these are the main things that people struggle with. And there is also a poll that we're going to do right now. So I will let you give us some answer of your own. By the way, the host is muted, so I don't know. I'm not really sure if Andre, you wanted to introduce this one.
Yeah. Thanks, Tomáš. Thanks for the insight. Yeah, let's do a quick poll. I think all participants should see it already. I can see it. The question is, what you and your organization perceive as the biggest bottleneck of AI adoption. There is a couple of questions. Let's take a couple of more seconds for our answers, and let's see what the results will be. Okay, I see we have already a couple of answers, so maybe we will we can show the answers, and Tomáš, you can comment on it.
Great. All right, super. So 40% says all of the above. Okay, that's interesting. Well, thank you first of all, thank you for participating. And I see that it's kind of all over the place. So there is no one struggle point that you would be fighting with. But I think that 40% of all the pollers said that they are kind of struggling with a little bit here and a little bit there, which is kind of understandable. And so in my opinion, it's kind of comes back to we have people. So we have people. Missing know-how is not a problem, right? So we have people who can do it, but then how to organize it? How do we have capacity on the IT and technological side, et cetera, et cetera? This is the struggle, right? And so guys, if you want to talk about like organization, then maybe we can get into different talks, maybe next webinars, and we'll be our colleagues will be in touch with you, because this is a tough discussion we can have, because organizing it, making a strategy, etc., is it's the problem is that it's kind of touches the whole organization, and you have to pull in a lot of different stakeholders, and this is where with our experience we can help you, but at the same time we will talk about how to start even smaller, so that you don't require all of these, let's say, strategies, etc. You can develop it later. So maybe let's move on to the next slides, and we'll talk about how to adapt a winning AI strategy. This is exactly where we want to be at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Tomáš, and I will take this part, and hopefully we will address some of the bottlenecks that you mentioned in the polls. So how to get started? And first and foremost, actually, the best is to start small. And if I use the example of Tomáš with riding the bike from the beginning, just looking how other people riding a bike will not teach you to ride a bike, right? So you need to get on it and try out by yourself, and learning by doing. So, and how to start with this is first we recommend to start with a business problem, and don't start with the technology. So don't tell, okay, we want a chatbot. Think that what we want to achieve, and you can say, okay, we want digital onboarding. So, and then perhaps some virtual assistant in a form of chatbot could be, but doesn't necessarily be the solution. So first start with the AI use case, and then as we said in the beginning, the scope is very important. Then this splits actually in two parts. Of course, first the business due diligence is defining some criteria that would help to evaluate the use case. As we will see later, that it's very important for the first one to be successful. So you need to define what you want to achieve. If you want to lower cost, increase revenue, or launch new product or business, and or this fourth one could be could be the reducing risk, could be also the tangible output. And once this is done and you have your business priorities aligned, then you can move to the technological part and see, can AI system meet desired performance, how much data is needed, and what would be the engineering timeline. Because in these small first cases, we want to have a quick win to demonstrate the value, and then and then build on top of it. So actually here I would like to split it in five-step process. So we covered set the business context, meaning what you want to achieve. Once this is done, you can engineer the data. Usually the data needed can be all around the company. It can be also some external data needed. So put it in the one place is the first step to start, to have it ready for developing AI model. The AI model itself is just basically the model, some black box that takes inputs and produce outputs. But it's not enough, and we see that a lot of companies stop there. And this is very important to to have two more steps, because the model that is sitting somewhere on the computer of data science will not make a difference, or report in the time somewhere in the presentation that we call slideware. It would not make a difference. So it's very important here to turn and wrap the model into production grade software. Means that deploy it somewhere, expose API, so business users or can consume the outputs of AI model that was developed in step 3, and then it can produce required output and impact. And fifth step is actually, once it's done and you have this software, smart software up and running, you also need to ensure adoption, to make sure that people adopt to the new way, or somehow it is integrated in the processes alone. And once these steps are done, then you can evaluate and actually see tangible outputs. So solving the problem end to end. And as I said, it's important not to stop in any of these steps, and then make it to the end to get the management buy-in. So this is what Thomas said, that you need to demonstrate that it is not only experimentation, but indeed you can put it in production and produce the desired outputs. So just to wrap up, and what are the key points and key takeaways, how to start. And first step in the bottom, I would like to share our experience that it's more important that your AI project to be successful rather than it will be most valuable for your company's bottom line. Of course, it needs to be seen in the bottom line, but it's important that it is successful, so the next projects can start. Let me give you an example. So in our client we implemented, it was a not big project, but it was well defined, well prepared, and quite a simple use case of implementing machine learning for fraud detection. Right. So frauds, of course, they account for small portion of the bottom line. So it will not make a revolution for the company if they suddenly reduce frauds by 30%. All right. So, but what was important that we deliver it, and it was indeed 30% reduction in the frauds. And then suddenly everybody in the company said, oh, okay, so it can work. And they started to onboard and think how they can implement and enhance the way they're working in other departments. And then, it attracted a lot of interest internally, and more importantly, the sponsorship for the bigger projects. And then you can start the ball rolling. Second is delivering solution that solves a problem end to end is critical to convince others, right? So this department who had fraud detection in place, it really worked. It was not just like an experiment or some proof of concept that they proved somewhere on the slides that they're able to deploy it. No, they did deploy it, and they present their results after 6 months. They look, last 6 months from we implemented this solution. It's running, and we have scored thousands of applications, and here is the comparison before and after, and indeed it's very convenient. It was the most convincing that you can do. But the key is that they really put solid into production. So they did the model, they wrapped it in the software, they deployed it, they exposed these APIs, so the process can be smooth, and then ensured the adoption. So they did also the change management right, and they indeed treated the application differently, allowing another AI to evaluate the incoming applications. So this was actually second most important factor of success. And the third one is that it is worthwhile partnering with experienced AI provider, especially for these first cases where you need to deliver fast, you need to deliver end to end. So here, while your internal teams have a deep domain knowledge, so they can, make this business due diligence very, very precisely. They know exactly what they want to achieve, and it's very good. They are not biased with, AI. I think that they really think business, and they can define clearly the KPIs, and then the experienced AI provider, he is actually from the other side, he's experienced AI, and there is a synergy that the experience of AI and the experience of domain knowledge of your business that can bring huge benefits and speed up and accelerate the process, so you can deliver the working solution in 6 months. And here we are back in loop, so you deliver it fast, you demonstrate success, and then you can start the flywheel turning. Having said that, transforming UI is a phase journey, right? So far we're talking about the initiation and being aware that entry barriers are very low, and we know what are the factors of success. We know how to start, but the journey is it's just a first stepping stone, and AI is really something transforming, which requires organizational changes. And here I would like to pass to Thomas to elaborate on this.
Well, thank you. So right now, what we want to talk about is the journey, right? How to get from nothing to where the AI is adopted. And I would actually divide it into 2 phases. One phase is the one that we were talking about. It's the first these 3 steps, right? The big data and AI day, initiation, and the delivering a business value. You can do that in a pretty quick manner. You don't need even big data. You can extract it. You can have a learning process, then spit out some data set, and on the data set prove through practical pilot that things work. cross-sell could be very, very good example, right? You don't need a online everything, in the minute. You can take your time, create the data set, uh, get the machine learning to do their job and learning from the data sets, then apply it on your real sample, and then go and call those guys and sell them, and then basically compare the business value of the output from the model versus your regular day-to-day. Now this is easy. It doesn't have to be that complicated, and it doesn't have to be this online seamless blah blah blah, right? It can be just your normal order of the day business, enhanced by analytics. Now that's well said, and sometimes even easy done. Once we get from this step forward, it gets much harder, right? Because all of a sudden it's not about only one department. If you want to accelerate it to basically the whole company, then you don't want to have in the bank each department own data scientists. I mean, you want it in a way, but you don't want these data scientists creating their own islands of technologies, methodologies, and security, and so on and so forth. All of a sudden you're going to have 10 different standards. It's not going to talk to each other, and it's going to become a mess. As some time ago, when CRM was completely separated from core system and so on and so forth, and now nobody knows the current data of the client anymore, right? So as we'll have, with this kind of strategy, it's going to happen the same thing. So at some point, we're going to say, hey, it works. We have 3-4 use cases that have delivered the value. Now we need to start thinking about where do we put it, and either starting a new department, putting it under the same department, but making sure that we align KPIs and so on and so forth, technologies and IT strategy that actually puts in the technologies that are required. First of all, the big data systems. If you want to go to different cloud systems, it's 100% possible. So the question there will be like, how do we want to utilize it? Where do we want to go from here? And again, it should be based on business. It shouldn't be based on. I've seen very many departments now in banking that actually the analytical guys are coming up with use cases for the business. And to be very honest, I was that guy 10 years ago. So I'm not saying anything. I was the guy who was from the analytics coming to the business and say, hey guys, I just came up with this smart thing and do it. And they say, yeah, well, but you didn't think about this, and this, right? So you can't do it. And so right now, this is what's happening in the AI, that they are letting the AI guys trying to drive the business, and the business guys are saying, guys, sorry, you didn't think of like 5 constraints that we have in the real world, and we can't just adopt it. So it has to be coming up from the business, telling the smart guys to say, hey, we need help with this. This is how it works. And our cross-sell works that we just have data once a month, fresh. And you have to come up with some kind of idea how do we get the most out of it. And we have only we have 1,500,000 clients. Out of that, we get every month we get 160,000 to call, and we want to reduce our call center. Please help us with that, right? And so in that regard, we can do some modeling that reduces that 150,000 to 50,000, but the concentration of people who actually want to buy something is really, really high. Perhaps 8 times, 10 times better than the regular models, and all of a sudden you have a winning idea there, right? So by other words, the first 3 is easy. The next one is not. But at the same moment, there is no one path. So if you look at this, this picture, it kind of tells you acceleration, synthesization, very nice picture. But in reality, all all the banks, all the financial institutions are different. And so there is no, and you at the same moment, they're not in the same position. So in that, what the message here is, you're going to have your custom, you have to have your custom journey to get there. But there are usually two phases, first, or maybe three phases. First wins, the first three steps. Then that you have to get it into your organization. And then once it's in your organization, that it's adopted. So the existence of the technology and the people within the organization doesn't really mean adoption. And so that it needs to be promoted. The other department needs to use, these technologies so that it becomes a DNA of the financial institution, of the bank or consumer lending, that this is part of the DNA, part of the structure, not just some kind of, hey, those guys in the corner office that doing some of their thing, and they're never connected to the business. So from this perspective, we can move on to the success story, right? The case study.
Yeah, thank you so much. Very interesting. So I would like now to go through the case study, how we implemented AI to empower early warning system and portfolio monitoring for one of the biggest banks in our region. So basically, what was the problem here? That banks obviously they have to do the portfolio monitoring. So once the loans are issued, but it has a certain life cycle. So once in a while, they have a process to go through the P&Ls and the financial reports to see if there is everything is okay and if the client is healthy, or there is some indication that they should change his rating or reduce the credit lines or make some actions. However, the problem was that first of all, the financial statements have a certain lag in time. So in the quarter report comes with a few months later. So you have one quarter and then a few months. So you have at least 3-4 months lag. So it can be too late. And also it was quite resource demanding because somebody has to put it all up and all the financial statements look here and there and evaluate. And this process was not productive, right? So they just check the boxes and more importantly, most of the cases was okay. And instead of looking for new business, new opportunities or serve the client, they were looking backwards to his financial statement. But however, you cannot skip it because this is something obviously that should be done. And then this head of risk tribe of this institution said that yes, we targeted to manage quality and the profitability of our portfolio, but we need to do it smart. So instead of going one by one, we need to focus on the clients with the negative indication and work with them, while the rest of portfolio doesn't need to be examined, so often. However, the problem is, to find out who has some negative indication or not, you have to go through each and every of them. But this is a task which is very well delegated to AI. And so we implemented the solution, which is based on analysis of time series and anomaly detection, which could, bring up early warnings. And the benefits are clear. That firstly, it's continuous process, right? So you can do it every night, every day, and you don't need to wait for the end of the quarter to get the figures, and then you need to have a person who would analyze it. And something, it's early warning system, right? And early warning, which is on 3 months data, is not so early warning. And therefore, and something can happen between the quarters. So continuous is one continuity of this process, one big advantage. So you can really spot emerging risk and avoid surprises. And secondly, you automate this, and people can avoid this routine work which doesn't bring business value. So now let's look how we deliver this project. So here is five steps as we described in the previous section, and as you can see, it took like 3 months to deliver this end-to-end and to demonstrate business value across the sponsorship spine. So first of all, set the business context where actually we define the business objective. It's very important to set some baseline that you want to beat, and then you can clearly say that yes, we have improved, and by how much. So it was very important. Then framing business problem to analytical task that took this week and a half, because we correctly started with a business problem where the head of risk rep said, look, I want to automate this process, and I want to concentrate only on the small portion of the clients with negative indication and leave everybody alone. So correctly, very well formulated task without any starting with business problem. And then it was our task actually to frame this problem into analytical task, and we said next to him, I said, okay, so we can solve it by the anomaly detection, because in essence what you need is to perform monitoring and scale with the help of anomaly detection techniques. So now we had business problem, we formulated into analytical task, and we had a baseline to beat. Very good starting point. Then the second part, which took more than 2 weeks actually, is to evaluate the data currently available and source the data, because there were like a lot of inputs across the company. So it took some time to develop reproducible data pipelines. And why I'm saying reproducible, because you need to make sure that you can rerun this model weekly and have robust pipelines for data. Because we already had in mind that in the end of the day it should be not experiment, but production grade working software. Then the software developing a VM model. This is actually a fairly small amount of time, just 2 weeks, but this is thanks to the fact that we had already pre-developed framework for anomaly detection. So time to market was fast. So we didn't actually. This is what I was talking. Synergy of external AI provider who has expertise in this case time series and ADA and anomaly detection. So it took only 2 weeks, and we can spend 4 weeks on engineering the data to customize this framework, and we can spend a lot of time in framing business problem into analytical task. We could spend time setting the baseline, and we can spend time with making sure that the business objective is defined right. So reusing pre-developed framework, just customizing with custom inputs and outputs, allowed us to get to point number 4, deployment, quite fast after 6 weeks. And then again, thanks to experience in various technologies, and we talked about the client providers. So it's I can imagine that for internal IT team it can be hard to put real-time scoring model into production for the first time, but however, we also helped the client with that because we did it multiple times. Therefore, push model into production took just 2 weeks, which is quite successful in my opinion, and allowed us to keep the traction. Because if suddenly you end up here and that says, okay, see this project for 6 months, then you lose the traction. So it's very important not to underestimate this part. And yes, and the adoption part was also important. We need to make sure that the process is aligned correctly to the new way of working. And as a result, actually, so what was achieved? So 62% of clients were whitelisted by AI tool. So it means that correctly predicted they are okay. And while the remaining 38% covered 97 of potential default, meaning to find, so it was sufficient to examine less than half, roughly 40%, to discover majority of problematic ones, which actually it means that more than half of portfolio, 60%, were whitelisted with a good indication. So there is manual monitoring was not triggered and was because it would end up as a meaningless work. So let's go actually some takeaways generally. So obviously eyes here in this aspect will be significant. We already see it in some other industries, for example, automotive, starting from production to self-driving cars. So it's really something disruptive. AI offers bigger opportunities. So we all know this use case, and we actually use AI in the daily basis. But even though all enablers are here, it's difficult to grasp, at least for the first time for the early adopters. And delivering a working solution that solves the problem end to end and demonstrating the business value success is critical to launch at the beginning of AI transformation. These are the three takeaways. And how to start with AI in your organization. This I would like to ask Thomas to comment.
Well, so I'm gonna have this is basically the last and wrap up. So I'm gonna wrap up here with a couple of points from my business perspective. Yeah. What I would like you to take away from this whole discussion, right? So first of all, don't expect miracles. Yeah. I remember at the time when big data came around and everybody says, the truth is in the data. And everybody thought that if you have just enormous amount of data, it will kind of figure out for you what you want, right? And I don't know if you know baseball player Yogi Berra, but he said, if you don't know where you're going, you won't probably get there. I kind of like it because it's exactly, if you don't know what you want to do in business, then AI is not going to solve it for you, right? So the idea what to do is yours, right? So that's don't expect that it's going to solve, like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. Second of all, start with the business problem, so you have something to work with. I remember, for example, in one of the banks, that they were like, okay, I want to solve my problem by technology. We need a new system. We need a new system. I said, why? Well, we need to go online. And I said, okay, so how is the new system going to help you? They said, well, it's just going to be online, right? And I said, okay, so let's talk about your process. And their process looked like that they had online form that was submitted to call center. The call center called the client just to get the appointment on the branch. And that was their online process. I said, hey guys, you have to actually figure out what you want to do with the online process before you get the technology. Because if you just start with the technology first, then you will figure it out that, you don't know what to do with it, and your process is just going to be the same. And, it's not going to help you anywhere. Then get the data. We have it. It's if it's not good, it's the same, garbage in, garbage out. If it's not good, it's not going to help you. How this can fail, how AI can fail, you will get it garbage data. Start small. If you start big, and usually huge transformation project, okay, they get done, but never it works very suddenly. So it start small, get the wins, build it from there. It's much easier than trying to convince all the departments that they should allow for this to happen. So, and it's a painful. There's a lot of buy-in that needs to go into that, and KPI changes. It's just, then it's a struggle. And usually I haven't seen a a project that would go without more or less a failure. And the last but not least is education and integration of people into the process. If people don't understand it, how to use the technologies or the outputs from the technologies, again, it's a failure, because integration of humans and the technologies is integral part of the whole process. And what I see is that, oh, there's an output, and then there is like, oh, and they'll learn, right? And they means like branch and front office people, back office people. And it usually doesn't happen that easy. And so they say, okay, I have this old system that I know and this new system I don't understand. So I'll just use the old one, right? Thank you very much. See you later. So this is integration is a very big part. And if you're struggling where to start, then what we're saying is that sit down and have a one-day workshop. Put somewhere in charge. We can do it too. Who facilitates that workshop one day. Put the people in one room, mostly in from one department, and say, hey, this is what the technology can do. Let's think about the cases that we can implement. Where do we struggle? Where the AI can help, and get the use cases up and running. So out of this one-day workshop or even half-day workshop, you can come out with 5-6 implementable ideas for your own organization, where it will be tailored to where you are, where technology capabilities, et cetera, et cetera. Now, of course, you can get a roadmap, from consulting services. Somebody comes in, does the whole audit thing, gets you everything for, and gets you a roadmap where you are and, where do you need to be in order to achieve your goals. Yeah. So from this perspective, once you know what you want, then the consultant can get you a roadmap and uncover the road to forward. And the next thing that what you can do is you already know what you want. You have just the prototyping, and so get somebody who already done it, and you're just kind of thinking how to do it. Then just get somebody who've done it, who has already the framework and the technologies and the people, and who can get you started and teach you how to get from point A to point B. And of course, there are the implementation projects that mean that from technology installations to actual framework deployments. That's once you already want to systemize the whole AI framework, and you already decided on what kind of technology is going to run it on, what frameworks are going to be actually implemented in libraries, and et cetera, et cetera. So this is from my perspective the takeaway that we should start that we should take away from this, and we can maybe move on to Q&As.
Thanks, Tomáš. Thanks, Dmitry, for the presentation. I personally found it very interesting. I hope our other participants as well. We have received several questions. For some, we are replying during the presentation, and we might still go through a few of them, which we will manage to do in upcoming 8 minutes scheduled for this webinar. So maybe let me start with the first question. Tomáš, I think you would be the best to answer this one. One of our participants is asking that we have shown a multiple practical use case of AI implementation, and from our experience, what was the use case with the highest measured business value? So I think the question is, what was the highest business value use case which we were participating or delivering?
Well, at this moment, it was cost saving. And it was the implementation of a chatbots and voice bots but it wasn't just, the thing is that it's not just the technology itself. It has to be, the processes has to be adjusted. The input IVR had to be adjusted, and so on and so forth. So from this perspective, it's just not that simple. But in this regard, the implementation on voice bot chatbots for an inbound call centers, which have saved actually 60% of the inbound. And I was usually when I see this, when we were doing without the AI, without these technologies, we could see, I don't know, 10%. We've been able to shave off with some of the smart, let's say, routing and stuff like this. This was amazing for me. That what I see was the best idea there or best implemented savings that I've seen so far.
Okay, thanks, Tomáš. It was a comprehensive answer. I hope it was sufficient. Maybe let's go to other question. Again, an anonymous question. But what role will technological giants like Google and Apple play in the future of banking and others? So I assume we might be speaking about Tencent, etc. I think Tomáš, you would be also like better to answer.
All right.
This.
Well, some say, this is very hard question to answer, but I have I will tell you my opinion on this, right? I think it will not be big. In terms of total banking, right? If I think of a bank is a highly regulated industry where you have deposits, you have to have cash management, you have a lot of, let's say, moving parts, you have to have different reportings to different bodies. So there is a lot of overhead, right? There's a lot of overhead if you want to be a bank. And the problem is that the Googles and Facebooks are good brands. Yeah, if you see the modern, like people who believe in it, they say, oh, it's going to take over the banking and the banks are doomed. I think they're not, because I think Google nor Facebook is ready for the regulatory oversight and all of that stuff that comes with it. However, what we see is that for specific services, as we see in the fintech, let's say, realm, there are very specialized services that they can take over, right? So money transfers, wiring money from one country to another, very good example. Or everybody kind of spells out Revolut. Yeah, Revolut didn't still make any money, in terms of business, so it's a nice idea still, and everybody loves it. It's a love brand. But at the moment, it's still not a viable business as far as money comes around. But at the same moment, they do very specific thing. You have a credit card or you have a card, and you can use it anywhere with very, very good favorable rates. And this is what, for example, our consultants use it for almost all of our consultants have it. And when I say, well, are you giving your salary there? And they're just like, come on. I mean, I would never trust that, these guys with my salary, but, I'll use it for transactions. That's totally fine. So in that regard, you can see that, the Googles and the Facebooks, yes, they have a good brand. And in some polls, you can see, would you trust as a bank, Google as a bank? And they say yes. But at the same moment, it's, the transfer from being an online company to being a bank and really managing the full scale of investments to cash management to branches to whatnot. It's just not. I don't see it as viable in the, let's say, foreseen future. So in my opinion, yes, they can steal some of the business, but are they going to steal banking now? I don't think so.
Okay, Tomáš, thanks. And we have actually a couple of questions which are related to frauds. One question, I think it's these two questions we can kind of try to very high level answer with one answer. And then if you would be more interested in knowing a bit more about the frauds, we can definitely get back to you and speak one-on-one. But first question is, how do you manage fraud in banking organization through AI? Let's say in case the organization is newbie to both AI and fraud. And the second question is asking if we could share some samples of using AI in fraud detection. I would personally maybe split this question into two areas. One would be a business area, saying like, okay, where in the banking we can use AI to detect frauds, and then a bit more technical question, approach related question, how actually AI improves the fraud detection. I think Dmitry would be the best person to ask to ask these two questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, from general speaking, that the bank is exposed to fraud in various places, be it transactions, applications, and all these kind of things. And the conventional is some rule-based systems that are often in place, but they are far from being perfect, right? So if they would be perfect, no fraud would exist. So definitely there is some inefficiencies that we can address, and we can address with AI, meaning there are two approaches. One is basically to train the algorithms that based on the frauds which fell from the first line of defense, your rules, examine them from wider angle and try to learn the patterns basically and close this protection gap between occurred frauds and your rule-based system. I don't want to go into details how. And there is also second approach is actually it's for some looking for outliers. It's a little bit deploying AI that would address the problem of looking for the needle in the haystack, right? Because statistically, most of the applications or transactions they are similar, but when there is a big outlier, some outlier, that can be indication for fraud. So, and this is where AI is good, is actually in the complex environment and the complex data in the complex data look for the extremes of outlier. This is a good this is a sample of applying AI and actually building and protect yourself from this risk.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
May I jump into it? This is Tomáš.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead, Tomáš.
So by other words, you can reduce for example, in application fraud, you can reduce the false positives by applying machine learning and anomaly detection, right? So machine learning is applying past rules to your future, right? So you know what were the frauds, you will learn it and detect it better. But you will eliminate, for example, 80% of all the false positives that the anti-fraud managers have to work on. Detecting anomaly is actually what Dmitry said, finding needle in a haystack. Is something is off, and you have to you actually find it out with these algorithms. And I don't know how many people of you or how many banks are working with documents, ID scans, ID pictures, income statements, things of that nature. And AI is beautiful for this. So if you want to tamper with PDF or JPEG, these are, let's say, the different document formats, and you want to load it into a computer, and then you wanna find out whether it has been tampered with. These different models for that are great. I mean, they can detect something that when I saw it, I was amazed. With how tampering can be very sophisticated with the documentation and the pictures, and the AI models can detect it 99% of the time. It was amazing. So in that regard, this could be one of the fraud detections if you're talking, for example, on ID stealing or tampering with income statements and so on and so forth.
Toma, thanks for the very detailed answer. Let's say additional information added to the Dmitry's answer. I think we are already 2 minutes after the scheduled end of the webinar, so I would maybe just thank all the participants. There are still a couple of unanswered questions, but we'll answer via a written answer. And maybe Dmitry, Tomáš, if there are any words or conclusions for the end of the webinar, this is the place probably.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so in that case, thank you very much for attending the webinar. I hope you liked it. In upcoming days, we will share with you the recording, and as I mentioned, for the unanswered questions, we will reach to you via in writing to go through. Nevertheless, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach to us via email. We will be very happy to open discussion on specific topics which you are interested in. So thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye bye.